Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Beanie, and welcome back to another year, another season of MLB The Show 20. This is my first video of the year on MLB The Show 20. Early access came out last night, and I thought that it would be a good idea to come out with a first impressions video. Just what I think about the game after playing in a few Battle Royale games and seeing all the live content that has released with the game. And I gotta say, for the most part, I've been pretty impressed. But before we get into that, I gotta do a little bit of housekeeping, guys. I know that I've been gone for a long time, but I'm back. My YouTube channel is back. I'm gonna be making consistent videos again. MLB The Show 20 just dropped. I kind of got a little burnt out on MLB The 19 late in the year. My grandmother died. There was a lot of estate type of things that I had to deal with later on in the year. It was a big headache. I understand a lot of you guys got frustrated. I apologize, but MLB The Show 20 is here and we are back 19 that year. Just pretend like it never happened. Another housekeeping thing, I'm not going to be streaming on YouTube anymore. I had my first MLB The Show 20 stream last night on Twitch. A lot of you guys didn't know about it because I haven't really publicized it that much, but that's what I'm going to do in today's video. Go over to twitch.tv/TTVBeanieAntics, and that is where I will be streaming from now on. I will leave a link in the description so you can go and follow me, and we can have a lot of fun every night on stream, at least 5 times a week. Also, one more little piece of housekeeping. I know a lot of guys were expecting a tutorial series in the lead up for MLB The Show 20, but this year I decided to do it a little bit different, and I decided to get the game in my hands, play it, kind of feel what this year's meta was going to be like before I ended up coming out with my tutorial series. The first episode of my tutorial series is going to start on March 21st, so be on the lookout for that. I think it's going to be better than in years past, because in years past I ended up giving some advice that it wasn't wrong, but maybe it was just a bit off from what that year's meta ended up eventually being. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about gameplay. Gameplay was very interesting last night. It was not exactly what I was expecting. There are a lot of changes to this year's game, and in my opinion, the biggest change is the fact that they took away the pitcher wheel, the pitcher roulette wheel, where your pitcher was chosen randomly at the beginning of every competitive game online. And I think that this was a good change. At least I thought it was whenever they came out with it and told us that this is what they were doing. But I gotta say, it's great, and it adds a huge element of strategy to things like Battle Royale. And just for the record, last night I was playing almost exclusively Battle Royale, so that's the only game mode that I have a ton of experience with at this point. So just kind of keep that in mind, that I was playing on All-Star and not any difficulties higher. Just keep that in context for the rest of this video. But the pitcher energy thing makes Battle Royale very, very interesting, because now it makes sense to draft good starters, or at least it seems like it does. The Battle Royale draft meta is very difficult to kind of approach this year, and one of the reasons for that is that they took a diamond away, and they didn't really add a gold player. They added a few silver players and took away some commons, and it's just a very strange meta to approach, because you don't really know if you should draft like a great lineup, how much pitching depth you actually need. And another thing that's changed is that you have a 3-batter minimum now. So the pitching depth really is kind of necessary, because if you bring a guy in, they're going to have to face at least 3 batters. And so far, from what I've been able to see from pitcher energy and things like that, your energy drains very, very quickly, and it's kind of hard to recover. It's going to take at least 2, maybe 3 games to recover all of that energy if you end up throwing and pitching to 3, 4, 5 guys. So while I really like the change to the pitcher energy, I do think that it adds a massive level of strategy to Battle Royale. There are a few things that I would like to see. One, I would like to see them bring that extra diamond back. It would help balance out Battle Royale drafting, help us build a deeper team to where maybe we can focus on both our lineup and our pitchings, to where we don't have to have like a terrible lineup if we end up wanting to have a couple of really good pitchers on our team as well. I think 3 diamonds is not overkill. I don't think that's too much to ask or anything like that. I think that would be a good change. I also think they need to balance the energy a little bit, make guys be able to go a little bit longer before they get just ridiculously tired, or maybe make them recover a game sooner, maybe something like that, just to where we don't have to draft 7 or 8 silver or better pitchers in order to get through an entire Battle Royale run without everybody being gassed. Okay, moving on to hitting. Remember, like I said, I've only been experiencing hitting on All-Star difficulty so far, and that is a bit of a problem since in the past few months I've been playing exclusively on Hall of Fame and Legend difficulty in preparations for like esports events and things like that. So maybe my perception of this is a little skewed, but hitting felt very, very easy last night. Like way too easy for All-Star difficulty. I understand that All-Star difficulty is kind of the difficulty of the masses, and that that they want to make it as accessible as possible, but it felt just a little too easy last night. And so a big question that I have is, how big is the difficulty gonna be, the difficulty jump gonna be between All-Star and Hall of Fame, or All-Star and Legend? Because if it's going to be as big as it was last year, or if Hall of Fame and Legend are going to be as difficult as they were last year, that jump is going to be insanely high. And if you're a World Series caliber player, I would honestly kind of recommend never playing Battle Royale, because it's going to be so difficult to jump in between MLB 19 Legend difficulty hitting and MLB 20 All-Star difficulty hitting. I mean, it's going to be a massive disparity in difficulty, and your timing is going to be all off. Your PCI placement's going to be all off. So yeah, it was just, it felt kind of weird last night with just how easy it almost felt like it was veteran difficulty, or maybe even, I don't know. It wasn't very good. But with that being said, as far as the difficulty curve being a little too light, it did feel foundationally like they have headed in a good direction. PCI placement does feel like it's being rewarded, even if pitch speed is a little too slow. Good timing, perfect timing is getting rewarded. Bad input is being punished. Those are the things that we want. It's just a little too easy to get those good inputs. So basically, it feels like it has a pretty good foundation to build from, but it needs a lot of balancing in the first few patches of the year in order to get to a spot to where I'm really comfortable. And on the complete flip side of that, pitching feels less rewarding than ever. I don't know what it is about pitching this year, but it feels like you have virtually no control over what's going on at the plate. And I know that that's kind of been the case for the entire existence of MLB The Show, that it doesn't really matter how well you pitch. If you're playing an opponent that's good enough, they're going to get their hits, they're going to hit their home runs and all that. I understand all of that, but you had players who last year would have been, not even in the top 2,000 best players in the world, and they were freaking cranking diamond level pitchers. I had the 93 Nolan Ryan on my Battle Royale team, and people were cranking him. I had the 92 Roy Oswalt. People were cranking him. people that should not be cranking those guys if I'm hitting my spots and making good pitches. Also, guys were way more patient at the plate. I think that kind of speaks to the pitch speed issue right now, and the fact that they didn't have to, take away the fastball because the fastball wasn't coming in that fast. If I made even the slightest little mistake, it was like a guaranteed home run. It just felt like I didn't have enough of the game in my control whenever I was pitching, and it also doesn't help that things like button accuracy are way more difficult, and it feels a bit it's so difficult it feels a bit random. You're gonna make a lot of errors on that. Even though I didn't make that many last night, it felt like I could have at any point. Every time they hit a ground ball, I felt a little nervous that I was gonna screw something up. That might be something that I get used to in the future. It might just be an adjustment thing, but it didn't feel great at first. But maybe that's just a bit of a minor complaint. It is something that I think I can get used to. But overall, it's just a difficult meta to understand, like what is important in pitching this year. It's something that I'm still trying to figure out. It's also like, how important are per nines, like your hit per nine and your K per nine, because that Nolan Ryan card has 100 plus hit and K per nine, and it didn't seem like it was giving other of my opposing hitters that much trouble. It didn't feel like it was shrinking their PCI all that much. It didn't feel like they were struggling to have precision placement or to time his changeup or his curveball to go along with that 99 mile per hour fastball. I don't know, it didn't feel like they were struggling the way they should have been against a pitcher that has those kind of stats. And just speaking on the PCI for 1 minute, one change that I think is amazing, probably the best change that they made all year, was giving you a customizable PCI. You really can customize everything from the color to how much of the PCI you want to see to its transparency. It's great. I'm still playing around with it, seeing what I like, what I don't like. But it's fantastic. I love it. And I think that there should be no more complaints about like what PCI you want more options when it comes to PCI. That there should be no more of that, because it really is fully customizable at this point. Last but not least on gameplay, there were a few bugs that I found that I think should be addressed. There was one where I was using analog pitching and the analog meter just disappeared in the middle of a pitch. It only happened 3 or 4 times, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but it is something that needs to be addressed, because if you're in a high leverage situation and that happens and you throw a meatball and your opponent ends up hitting a home run off of it, you would be pretty freaking mad about that. So that needs to be addressed. And also, there were several times where my opponent would make an error, or even I would make an error, and it would be ruled as a hit. They need to take care of that, because just for stat tracking purposes. So put the word out about that, see if they can get that fixed in the first patch. Okay, and now talking about content, and this is where I think that for the most part MLB The Show keeps getting better and better, and this year they really hit a home run with the live content. There is so much card diversity. They have so many different types of cards, so many different things you can do with the cards. There are so many gradations of card goodness. Like you have your useful silvers, you have your golds that are kind of BR beasts, you have your low diamonds, who at this point in the year are kind of the best players on your live series or on your squad in ranked seasons. And then you have those illustrious 99 overall diamonds that you may not have right now, but you're going to be working all year to get them. And it's really, really awesome. I mean, they've just put so much time and effort into making no lineup in the game look the same. Like you're probably never going to run into the same kind of lineup all year, because there's just so many cards to choose from, so many different types of players. The only thing that I would have kind of asked that they do, and that's something that I still kind of hope that they do in the future, is give the cards more attribute categories, like maybe catcher framing, You know, maybe pitchers that pitch better against righties or lefties, pitcher splits, things like that. Maybe oppo power, pull power, gap power, those type of attributes, just to be able to distinguish between the cards even more. I think that would be a great thing in the future. They couldn't do that this year, but I think that that's something that they can lay on top of this foundation and really make the live content of this game amazing. One thing that I really like is that lower rated diamonds seem to be very important right now. And by low rated, I mean that 88 to like 91 range that aren't too difficult to get at this point. Like, they are attainable if you just play the game a little bit. They didn't saturate the market with 99 overalls early on in the game. Now, I will get to that in a minute, because there is a caveat to that I hope that they address in the future. But right now, it does seem like most teams are going to be built up of lower rated diamonds, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's never a good idea to make it too easy to get 99 overall diamonds at the very beginning of the year, because then live content later in the year just becomes very boring. You aren't excited for new releases, and it's just not a good idea. But going to that caveat, the XP reward path, they put it back in, and I'm not that happy about it. It's still just a bit too overpowered this early on in the year. I mean, it's not going to take guys that long, maybe a week or two, to be able to get those first 99 or 95 plus overalls that you get, that, you know, that 99 Cy Young or the 96 Raleigh Fingers. It's not going to take guys that long to get those cards. They're going to be a staple on everyone's team. You know, those 99 cards at the end of the XP reward path, like the Ryan Sandberg and the Barry Larkin, they're going to be on everybody's team early on in the game, and that kind of sucks, because they're really the only readily available 99s early on in the game, and so that is going to hurt team diversity early on. But I do hope that they're able to come out with cards that can kind of match or even exceed those guys' prowess, so that it doesn't end up making all teams look the same. And I hope they're able to do that pretty early on, because the XP reward pack, I think they're just giving out a little too much. And I know that people don't like to hear that, because what separates Diamond Dynasty from Madden or, like, you know, MUT or NBA 2K is that they are very, very generous. If you play the game a lot, you will get rewarded and you will have a competitive team. And that's great, but I think that sometimes they go a bit overboard, or maybe go overboard a little too early. And I think the XP reward path is a pretty good illustration of that. Moving on to Team Affinity. Team Affinity is awesome. In fact, I have a video coming out later today where I'm going to be ranking all of the Team Affinity awards and telling you which ones that you need to go after. The thing that's so great about the Team Affinity rewards is that they don't really end this year. They're going to be putting out live content for each team every single month, or I guess season, throughout the year. They have a spring program for it, a fall program, a winter all that stuff. You are going to be able to you know, get those faces of the franchise, I guess is what they're going to go with for all of those programs. You're going to be able to be working towards those cards all year, and I assume that they're going to be getting better and better, and by the end of the year you may have you know, a couple of 99 overalls for every single team that you can go after, as long as you stay on top of, you know, your work every year, every season. I guess that's what I'm going to call it, season, because that's really how they break it down, is like spring, summer, fall. But as long as you stay on top of that, you are going to have your opportunity to get some really, really good cards. And even early on, they are really, really good, and they can help your team out a ton early on in the year. The first inning program is wasn't super impressed with it. The cards aren't that great, but that was kind of the case last year as well, with the Goose Gossage and the Andrew Jones. And I mean, they were okay, but they weren't that great. There were better cards out there. I have a feeling that the inning programs are going to get a lot better with the second, third, fourth innings, and you're going to get a lot more useful cards. It is cool that you can prestige those cards, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But yeah, for the most part, they're okay. They're probably not going to be that useful. I'm probably going to end up selling mine as soon as I get it. Or maybe I may keep them around for a little while, but I kind of want to maximize my stubs when it comes to that Todd Helton and the Roy Oswalt and all those cards. They just don't seem like they're part of my long-term plans. The collection rewards are fantastic at the top. I think that Diamond Dynasty, the focus should be on collecting. I think they need to drive it even more towards collecting, you know, along with the gameplay and everything. But I think you need to be rewarded even more for collecting cards, collecting flashbacks, maybe have big time rewards at the top if you collect a certain amount of a certain type of flashback or signature or whatever. But for the live series reward collections, this is probably my favorite final reward that they've ever had. The Mickey Mantle. He's a lot like the Willie Mays from last year. He's a 5-tool stud center fielder, but the difference is that he's a switch hitter, so he's even better. The only thing that isn't just like flat out amazing on this card is his vision, but this year, given the PCI changes and all that, I don't even think vision is really all that important. It's really more about contact and power, and he's got that in droves. He's got great fielding, and then if you look at the Craig Biggio and the Gary Sheffield, those cards are awesome. They're great. Not sure how how viable they are long term. One complaint I do have is that it seems like last year they started to kind of downgrade the division rewards quite a bit and the team rewards a good bit, to where those cards are barely useful. The Willie Stargell is okay. There are a couple division rewards that are pretty intriguing. Could be nice early game cards, but I don't expect many people are going to be completing the collections that early. So they're probably going to be collected like later on down the line. And for the guys who do that, for the guys who finish their collections later on, those cards are going to have very, very little use. They're not going to be used much at all. They're just going to kind of sit and rot in people's collections. And the team rewards are kind of even worse. There are a lot of golds in there that have virtually no use outside of Battle Royale, maybe some events. So I wish that they would kind of make those a little bit better, a little more attractive, get people a little more hyped to go out there and collect those live series cards, because, you know, getting that Mickey Mantle is going to be a grind if you don't spend a lot of money. And, you know, not everybody can afford to drop $2,000 at the beginning of the game, and they have to grind, and all the rewards leading up to that Mickey Mantle might not be worth that grind. Then finally, the prestige, you're able to prestige many of these cards. The collection rewards, you're able to prestige the first inning programs. Very, very cool idea. I hope they don't go overboard with it, where you're having to evolve like every single card you pick up, like it seems like you do in Madden nowadays. But just having this little thing where if you play with a card, you like the card, he becomes a staple of your team. Eventually you can end up prestiging that card. It's not overpowered. They don't become like, you know, Pepe Alazar or anything. It just adds a couple points to each of their attributes, makes them just a little bit better. Gives you that nice little red diamond. It's a nice little touch. I like it. It's not a huge change. I don't think it's going to be a game changer or anything like that, but it is a nice little touch to add on to the live content in Diamond Dynasty. My only big concern with the live content this year is that it looks like it could get just a bit grindy. You just have so many things going on. You have MLB Showdown, you have moments, you have BR events, and then like how are you going to fit in esports tournaments and qualifiers in the middle of that? You've got conquest. There's so much content that it feels like you're just going to be spending your entire life grinding in order to get the things that you want out of Diamond Dynasty. So that they're going to have to figure out how to balance that out. But for the most part, it looks great. I love everything about it, except for the possible grind. But you know me, I do kind of enjoy the grind. It is good for content. So whatever. It's just other people might not like it so much. overall, my first impressions of the game are very positive. I do think that they need to put out a very early patch to iron out some of the gameplay, some of the bug issues, you know, just to balance everything out. The foundation that they have is pretty good. So yeah, those are my initial thoughts on MLB The Show. I know for those of you who play MLB The Show offline, I will be getting to, you know, things like March to October. I'll be getting to franchise and Road to the Show and my impressions of that in another video. I haven't really touched that much, but I will be looking into those things, so don't worry about that. But mostly, we're going to be focused on Diamond Dynasty, and I will be coming out with a video on the Team Affinity programs in just a little while. But until then, I love you guys. Follow me on Twitch, TTV Beanie Antics at Twitch. So yeah, come and check me out. Follow me on Twitter. Hit the subscribe button. I love you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow or later. But until then, peace.